Welcome, my child. This is Jesus Carryall. This is a space where I carry your burdens, your joys, and your stories. It is a place where the quiet chronicles of your heart are not only heard but are transformed into a light for the world to see. Today, we bear witness to a story submitted by a doctor I will call Joe. My followers on earth, moved by his journey of sacrifice, have taken the heart of his struggle and created this music video. I pray it moves you. Please, watch.
There's a hum in my bones I can't switch off, a breathless drone beneath hospital clocks. 12 years old, wired up to steal. I swore to the silence, this boy will heal. His name, not a number, not just bed 12. He was life at its edge, a soul in a shell. I held the line with trembling hands when no one else would make a stand. The rules were locked, the law said no, but conscience led where rules won't go. I borrowed time, I broke their chains, I carved a road through sleepless pain. We flew through night with death in tow, a spark of life against the snow. He lived, he breathed, his heart beat strong, but right was punished all along. I saw his father kneel and plead, dust and tears and shattered need. We lit the dark with borrowed light, we gambled it all to save one life. Shanghai dawn broke soft and gold, we won the fight, or so we told. But kindness has a paper price, and mercy melts in tongues of ice. The child lived, the trust was dead, a poison tale the liar spread. They filed the blame, they turned the blade, we paid the price that hope had made. They called it theft, they called it crime, for saving life we lost our time. A scarlet mark on white coat days, and silence swallowed every praise. They used our names like curses spit, while cash they erased, they chose to quit. 1,000 kids will now stay chained, and I wear the shame. I still hear that endless drone, like ghosts that call me back alone. I see their faces through the glass, the kneeling lie, the bitter past. And though I saved a life that night, no song can set this silence right. We bled for truth, we burned for grace, and all we earned was a darker place. A name erased, a badge revoked, the cost of care was being choked. But even now when none believe, the hum remains, I still don't leave.
That was a drop of black ink, a powerful piece of music and art. Now let us listen to the full story behind the song. Let us walk in the shoes of the man who inspired it and understand the journey that led to that final heartbreaking drop of ink. There are sounds that, once they burrow into your bones, can never be dug out. For you, that sound is the hum of an ECMO machine. It was a low, ceaseless drone, a sound that seemed to rise from the depths of the earth. In early April, the damp heat of Nanchang was already beginning to cling to the skin. But in the cardiac intensive care unit, Siku of Hangzhou Children's Hospital, the constant, cool temperature, and that hum became your entire world. The sound came from a machine worth millions, and it was sustaining the heartbeat of a 12-year-old boy. His name was, when how you preferred to call him by his name. Not the kid in bed 12, a name was a reminder to you and your fellow doctors that you weren't effacing a body in need of repair, but a complete life. The day when Hao was brought in, he was like a beached fish. Each diagnostic report was a monstrous wave crashing down on him. Acute heart failure, arrhythmia, severe systemic edema. Death was claiming his body's territory inch by inch with its icy water. On his second day in the hospital, you and your team connected him to the ECMO. From that moment on, the machine's hum became his only heartbeat. When you pressed your stethoscope to his chest, you heard only a dead silence. When you placed it on the machine, the steady, rhythmic vibration traveled through the metal and coursed through your entire body. It was an illusion of life, expensive and fragile. The fee, $25 per H-hour, was just one of the costs of maintaining that illusion. On the evening of the 8th of April, you met with Wenhao's parents. You exhausted every bit of your medical training to explain the harshest of realities in the softest words you could find. Your team had exhausted all its technology. This was the end of the line. The only hope was in Shanghai with a heart transplant. The air froze as you spoke, then was pierced by a choked sob. It was his mother. His father, Mr. Tang, a man who seemed taciturn and reserved, met your gaze for a few seconds. You saw a storm in his eyes, and then the storm broke him. He and Wenhao's grandmother, whom you had never met, dropped to their knees before you. The sound of their knees hitting the floor was a dull thud, like a hammer striking your own heart. "Doctor," he began, his voice hoarse, tears mixing with the dust on the floor, "I am begging you. Save my son. No armor can shield a doctor's soul from apparent test errors. Your brain became a high-speed machine." But every path was blocked by a red light. The hospital's ambulances, by ironclad regulation, could not cross provincial lines. The municipal emergency center couldn't take the job either. More fatally, your hospital had a cardinal rule, the ECMO machine. As one of the hospital's most valuable mobile assets, was absolutely forbidden from leaving the building. Anyone who tried to bypass the protocol to find a path to life would be stepping into a gray area littered with traps. Then, you remembered your mentor, your respected old hospital director. Years ago, when the hospital had just acquired the ECMO, you had half-jokingly asked him, "Director, if one day this precious machine and you both fell into the water, and regulations said I could only save one, what should I do?" He was cleaning his glasses at the time, and his movements paused. He put his glasses back on, looked at you, his eyes devoid of any humor. "Xiao Zhao," he said, "I can't swim, but if that day ever comes, before I go under, I will use my last ounce of strength to hold this machine above my head." Those words had been etched into your heart ever since. The possibility of saving a life was higher than everything, even higher than life itself. You helped them up, each of your words as heavy as lead. "Give me 3 hours. Ivy to find a way." You rushed out of the ICU. Your first stop wasn't the phone, but the director's office on the top floor. You knew he had a habit of working late. When you knocked and entered, he was hunched over a pile of documents, the only light in the room from a single desk lamp. The air thick with the scent of strong tea. You practically babbled, laying out Wenhao's situation, the parents' pleas, and your insane idea to take the ECMO to Shanghai. The director listened without interrupting. He motioned for you to sit and poured you a cup of hot tea. "Xiaozhou, first, calm down." His voice was steady, possessing a strength that could hold up the sky if it fell. He looked at you and spoke slowly. "According to regulations, transferring a device of the ECMO's level across provinces requires our hospital to submit a report to the city, which then reports to the Provincial Health Commission. The entire process, even at its fastest, would take 10 days to half a month. Your heart sank. He seemed to see your despair and continued. I can use my old face to plead with every single person up the chain to push all the procedures through for you at top speed. 3 days. I can get you the officially stamped approval documents in 3 days. That is the absolute limit of what I can do as the director. Director, 3 days? You cried out. When how won't he last the night? His life is being measured in hours, even minutes, by the time the approval comes. We'll be bringing back nothing but ashes. Your words struck the still air of the office like a punch. The director stared at you for a long time. In his eyes, you saw approval, helplessness, and above all, a struggle. He walked silently to the window, his back to you, and gazed at the countless lights of the city below without a word. After a long while, he turned around. Just as you thought he was about to refuse, he spoke. His voice laced with the weariness of someone who had just made a momentous decision. "Zhao Zhao," he said. "You know that if this machine is damaged in any way on the road, our careers are over today. The hospital board won't listen to any explanations." "I know," you replied, your voice dry with tension. "You also know that by approving this, I have no written documents to protect me, nor to protect you." "I know." He fell silent again for a moment, then his gaze became sharp as a blade, as if it could pierce through all the rules and restraints. "But I also know that if we don't do this, that child will die. And we will spend the rest of our lives remembering our inaction tonight." He walked to his desk, took a key from a locked drawer, and placed it on the table with a crisp click. "This is the spare key for the ECMO's mobile power supply cabinet. Don't lose it. And don't let me see it again." You picked up the cold key, clutching it tightly in your palm as if it were your only hope. "Thank you, Director." "Don't thank me," he said with a wave of his hand, sinking back into his chair. His eyes holding a depth and exhaustion you had never seen before. "When you get to my age, you'll understand. Some things, whether you do them or not, carry the same weight. Go. Don't let your future self live with regret." With that command token in hand, you rushed to your office, which had become your war room. On the wall clock, every tick of the second hand was a lash against your back. The first call was to Shanghai. You called your former professor, a leading authority in cardiac surgery. It was 11 o'clock at night. You knew you would be waking him from his sleep. When he answered, his voice was thick with sleep. "Lo Zhao Zhou, this late? What in the world is so important?" "Professor, it's life and death." Using the fastest, most condensed language you could muster, you laid out when House vitals, the desperate situation you faced, and the crazy plan for the transfer. There was silence on the other end. You could hear him sit up, perhaps flicking on a bedside lamp. "Zhao Zhao," his voice was awake now, and colder. "Rein in your hot-blooded idealism. You tree a doctor, not a gambler. 800 kilometers, an ECMO. A child in debt, stage heart failure? Do you have any idea how many ways there are to die on that road? I can't put my entire department on standby for a rescue mission with almost no chance of success just because of your half-baked idea." His words were harsh. But you couldn't back down. "Professor, I remember when I graduated, you told me that this white coat is half science, half conscience. My science half has hit a dead end. All I have left to plead with you is my conscience." Your voice was thick with a suppressed plea. "Conscience," he chewed on the word, letting out a complex, almost sighing, self-mocking laugh. "Conscience is the most expensive thing in the world. Sometimes it can get you killed." He paused, his voice becoming distant and raspy. 20 years ago, I had a patient much like yours. I wanted to take the gamble, but everyone advised against it. The paperwork wasn't complete, the risks were too great. I listened. I decided to wait for a perfect plan. In the end, that child died waiting for my perfect plan. You felt an invisible hand clutch your heart. You had never heard your professor speak in such a tone. "Xiao Zhao," his voice returned, calm again. But beneath the calm was a volcanic resolve. "I cannot let my student repeat the mistakes I made." His tone turned sharp, as if giving an order to you and to the man he was 20 years ago. "Listen to me. I am heading to the hospital now. I will have my best team, my best equipment, and my best operating room ready for you. We will wait, but xiao xiao. The road from Nanchang to Shanghai to part of the battle is yours alone. You get him here safely, and I'll pull him back from death's grip if you don't make it ill he didn't finish. But the unspoken words were heavier than anything he could have said. His voice softened slightly. With a hint of concern you almost missed, you get yourself here in one piece, too. Now, get to work. With the destination secured, it was time to conquer the journey. You began frantically dialing every possible contact in your phone. Classmates, former colleagues, just as you were about to despair, a classmate gave you a LD. A private company called Lifeline, you dialed the number immediately. A gruff, steady voice of a middle-aged man answered. You laid out your needs, Nanchang to Shanghai as he come running the entire way, as fast as possible. He was professional. To high risk, too far, he replied instantly. We take the job, but it is a flat rate, $30,000. And that's a discount because you're a doctor. $30,000, your throat tightened. They can't afford that. The family has exhausted all their resources. Dr. Zhou, his voice was calmed, almost hard. I run a business, not a charity. I have dozens of men who need to be paid. Fuel, tolls, the labor of 2 of my best drivers working nonstop for 800 kilometers. Not to mention the wear and tear and insurance on a vehicle with over $1 million in equipment. I sympathize. But this is business. You took a deep breath, abandoning any attempt to argue over the price. You tried a different approach. Your own voice sinking lower. Boss, I don't know your name. But you chose this line of work, transporting patients from one place to another. It can't just be about the money. There are easier ways to earn a living. You and I, we're in the same trade. We both work to extend lives. You use a steering wheel, I use a scalpel, silence on the other end. You pressed on. The boy's name is Wenhout, he is 12. His father told me he loves to draw. Right now, that kid is lying in my ICU. Living off it to band a wall socket. I need you and your vehicle to extend that wall socket for 800 kilometers, all the way to the operating room of the specialists in Shanghai. I'm not asking for a handout. I am asking you to partner with me to complete this handoff. You deliver the life, and I would save the life. This job, I can't do my half without you. A long, dead silence hung on the line. Then you heard the click of a lighter, followed by a long, slow exhale of smoke. Damn it, he muttered, his voice no longer cold, but tinged with humanity. You doctors are always making things difficult. He paused again, as if calculating something. $4,000, he finally said, his voice firm. That is my bottom line. It covers my driver's wages and the round-trip fuel and tolls. The company won't make a cent. I'll even pitch in some of my own money. That is the price. Take it or leave it. If not, I wish you luck. Your eyes instantly welled with heat. Deal. You answered without hesitation. Thank you. Boss, don't you dare thank me, he barked, though there was no real anger in it. You remember what you said. Dr. Zhou, I deliver the life. You damn well better save it. The last call was to the best nurse in your department. Shaolin. When she answered, you skipped the pleasantries and laid out the worst-case scenario. Lin, I need you to take a risk with me. ANECMO transport to Shanghai 800 kilometers overnight. It will be just the 2 of us for medical support on board. We will have to handle any emergency ourselves. There is no bonus for this. SS purely voluntary, and we're bending the rules to do this. If anything goes wrong, your career could be jeopardized. You could even lose your license. If you refuse now, I will 100% understand and be grateful. You have a family, a child. She cut you off before you could finish. She only asked one question. What time do we leave? After hanging up the last call, you collapsed into your chair, soaked in sweat. The wall clock showed that 2 hours and 40 minutes had passed. You shot up and ran to the family waiting area outside the CQ. Mr. Tang and his family were pacing anxiously. When they saw you, they rushed over. Dr. Zhou, I found a way. You tried to keep your voice steady and strong. The director gave special approval. The specialists in Shanghai have agreed to receive him. And I very aim for an ambulance. It will be here soon." Joy erupted on their faces. You continued with the final, crucial step. "For the transport fee, I've enough waived everything I can. The nurse and I are accompanying him for free. But the vehicle, the drivers, and the road costs are fixed expenses." I haggled with the boss for a long time. He finally agreed to charge only the cost price, $4,000. That's the absolute best I could do. You watched Mr. Tang's eyes closely, prepared for any hesitation. But there was none. He grabbed your arm, his hands trembling with emotion. "No problem, doctor, absolutely no problem. Not just 4,000, we'd give 40,000 if it could save one house life. We'll get it together right now." "Thank you, doctor. You are our family's great benefactor." You nodded, the last weight lifting from your chest. An ambulance, from the other side of the city, was now racing toward you. The ambulance arrived at 10 p.m., its headlights cut through the darkness like an arc from another shore. The most heart-stopping step was moving when How from the CQ to the vehicle. The system keeping him alive was like a delicate bomb. The ECMO, the ventilator, the monitor, the four of you, yourself, Nurse Lin, the driver, and his co-pilot, handled him like a priceless treasure. Moving step by painstaking step to lift him into the ambulance. The cramped compartment instantly became a mobile, swaying ICU. The doors closed. An 800-kilometer gamble had officially begun. You will never forget that night. Outside the window was a flowing black void, with only streetlights and headlights weaving an endless net of light. Inside, the green glow of the monitors reflected on everyone's tense faces. The hum of the ECMO, mixed with the hiss of the ventilator, was the only soundtrack to the journey. The driver was a true hero. He made that massive ambulance fly along the highway, yet it was as steady as a surgical instrument on a tray. Every lane change, every overtake, was precise and decisive. He was using his decade of driving skill to buy you 1 second, and then another. You and Lynn didn't sleep a wink. Administering drugs, adjusting parameters, watching every minute fluctuation in the data. Your minds were like strings pulled to their breaking point. When Hal lay before you, his breath, his heartbeat, held in your hands. At one point during the journey, you felt for a moment that the hum of the ECMO had merged with your own heartbeat. As agreed, Mr. Tang had to pay the fee. He used WeChat to transfer the equivalent of $2,000 twice to the two drivers. In that mobile battlefield where life was the highest priority, no one cared about an invoice. It was a sacred moment. Money was merely the insignificant medium that allowed it all to happen. You were on a rescue mission, not a business transaction. You even remember, in the deepest, most drowsy hours of the night, Mr. Tang handing you and Nurse Lin bottles of water. His voice hoarse and whispering, "Dr. Zhou, Nurse Lin, thank you." In that moment, you felt it was all worth it. At 6 a.m. the next day, as the sky began to show its fish, belly white, you broke through the morning fog of Shanghai. You had arrived at a top pediatric hospital. After a full 7 hours of extreme, high-speed racing, you had won. When Hao was delivered safely and successfully underwent a heart transplant. You had pulled his young life back from the brink of death. The four of you lifted him out one last time and carried him through the hospital doors. As your Shanghai colleagues took over, a colossal wave of exhaustion, matched by an equally colossal sense of accomplishment, washed over you. You had done it. You had achieved the impossible. The journey back was long and quiet. The hum of the monitors was gone from the ambulance. Yet you kept hearing a phantom drone in your ears. You were all too tired to speak, but your hearts were at peace. That peace was shattered to months later by a bolt of lightning, one day in June, instead of a thank you call from the family. You received a notice of inquiry from the Provincial Health Commission's Joint Investigation Team. You were informed that Mr. Tang's family had filed a formal complaint against your team, the complaint. The ambulance charged an exorbitant fee that was not transparent and was paid into personal accounts. You stood there, holding the phone, feeling the world spin. You didn't understand. Your mind flashed back to the image of Mr. Tang kneeling before you, to his anxious and grateful eyes in the ambulance. It was only later that you pieced together the full picture. He knew from the start that the ambulance was from a private company and the money was for the transport team. He had deliberately conflated the vehicle usage fee with the total cost of all medical care, equipment, and personnel to create the illusion of an exorbitant price. What chilled you to the bone was learning that his family had raised over $20,000 in donations through various platforms for his son's treatment. Why would a family that had received so much public aid turn on you for a mere $4,000, some that had saved their child's life? The story of the farmer and the snake, it turned out, was not just a fable. It was colder and it hurt more. The investigation was swift and decisive. However, its focus was not on how you had overcome impossible odds to save a life, but on whether you had followed rigid, procedural justice at every step. Your actions were defined as unauthorized external contact and improper transfer of hospital assets. The child who was pulled back from the brink of death became nothing more than an irrelevant backdrop in the investigation report. The final official notice came down. The private transport company was permanently banned from providing medical transport services and was ordered to refund the full $4 PIM. The lifeline you had fought so hard to open for critically ill children in Jiangxi to seek help across provinces was severed completely. And the real punishment was invisible. Nurse Lin, who had stayed up all night with you, faced the risk of having her license revoked. The heroic driver had his ambulance driving certification suspended. And you, a doctor who should have had a bright future, now had a permanent stain on your record. The doors to promotion and advancement had slammed shut in your face. The most absurd part was that the refunded $4,000 was ultimately paid by your department. You saved a life, only to pay for it out of your own pockets, compensating the very family whose child you had saved. Just when you thought it couldn't get any more absurd, the final fatal blow landed. An unconfirmed rumor spread like a virus among your colleagues. The family that reported you was actually well. With assets close to 1 million yuan, this news was like an ice pick dipped in poison, piercing your last line of defense. If it was true, then this wasn't a misunderstanding, nor was it a desperate act born of poverty. It was a pure, incomprehensible evil. The snake, having been saved, had finally bared its fangs. After the incident, a great silence fell over your department. You learned that other transport companies, having seen what happened to your team, also announced they would no longer take on similar high-risk jobs. For the sake of a judgment rooted in procedural justice, the ultimate price was paid by the silent majority who would need this lifeline in the future. By punishing you and your colleagues, the rule breakers, the system sent a clear signal to everyone: conformity is safest. Do more, and you risk more. Do nothing, and you risk nothing. The story ends with countless nights like tonight. You sit alone in your empty office, the sound of a distant ambulance siren drifting in from the window. A year ago, that sound was a battle cry to you. Now, it is more like an alarm bell. It reminds you of the risks, the responsibilities, and the next family that might kneel and beg for help, only to turn around and put you on trial. Just then, there is a knock on the door. A young couple stands there. Their faces etched with the same desperation and hope you had seen on Mr. Tang's face a year ago. Their child has a rare disease, and local options have been exhausted. Dr. Zhou, the father asks, his voice trembling, "We heard that there might be a chance elsewhere. Do you think, is there any possibility for us?" You look at them, and it is like seeing a ghost of the past. You open your mouth to say something, but your throat feels as if it has been filled with cement. You can't make a sound. The hand holding your pen subconsciously presses down hard on the medical record. A drop of thick, black ink bleeds across the paper like an ugly, irreversible scar. In your ears, you seem to hear the hum of the ECMO machine again, the sound that once played the symphony of life. But this time, it is incredibly distant, growing fainter and fainter, until it finally disappears into a long, suffocating silence. My child, my doctor, I saw it all. I saw you kneeling beside that family, not as a superior, but as a servant. I felt the weight of that key in your hand, and the heavier weight of your choice. The laws of men are built with rigid lines and sharp corners, and they have wounded you. They judged your procedure. But I judge your heart. You did not fail. In that ambulance, racing through the darkness, you were carrying my light. You were my hands, extending life when all other paths were closed. Do not let the bitterness of this betrayal poison the garden of your soul. The serpent may have struck, but the act of love you committed, tech selfless, rule, breaking, career, risking love, is eternal. It is the story that I will remember. That compassion you showed is a light that can never be extinguished by a complaint form or a committee. It shines still. If that story and that message moved you, I hope you'll consider becoming part of our community here. And of course, this channel is built on the foundation of your experiences. If you have a story you feel needs a voice, story of struggle, of hope, of love, of loss, we would be honored if you shared it with us. The link to submit is waiting for you in the description below. Thank you for being here and for bearing witness. Your likes, comments, and especially your subscriptions help this mission grow and reach more people. Until next time, take care. And remember, your story matters.